Okay, so what I'll do is let me see if there are some other questions too. We have just about 10, 12 more minutes. And anything on the telco side, any of the telcos in terms of the opportunity that you see? I'd seen a hand or two going up at the back. Either your questions have vanished or they've. So any other question? Okay, so let me then get to the second part of this, and maybe we can take this up in some more detail either at the end or offline. Where does the telco fit into this picture in your experience in other countries? So on the consumer side, in terms of devices, data, phones, etc., the telco is very often the front. The telco actually is go-to-market. Okay, but in devices like this, it's possible that the telco won't be. But who is go-to-market, and do they normally go-to-market with a telco as part of the picture? Where does the telco actually come in? Because clearly the customer is not going to buy these devices and then look for a connection for them or whatever.
Can I come in here?
Please.
So I mean, I see the role of the telco being at the first point, the front line of any adoption of new technologies in home, which addresses your points of the information gap, interoperability, setup, integration, migration if required from earlier technologies that are there. The second part is actually layering services. So how do you layer services which are being provided by third party that actually prove the benefits for any of these new devices that can be in smart homes? And third, finally, how do you actually make sure that the core services that telco provides, which is data and bandwidth, is provided on and high availability, so you can make use of any of these new devices which require all of your core services to perform. So those are the three things. I do think telcos are at the front line. They should be at the front line. It's an opportunity to even look at extending beyond and seeing an integration layer, which is from a user experience perspective, because you've got different devices, different interfaces. Somebody needs to bring them all together to make it one simplified user experience for new customers who are buying these technologies.
Okay, great. Tarun, do you have a view on this? Now, again, the connected devices space, I mean, there is often a telco involved, but the customer may not experience it because there's been a deal at the back end or whatever. Then there are other devices which, of course, work over Wi-Fi or something, so there may not be a telco directly involved in that. Ultimately, it's going through a telco's bandwidth. But where do you see the telco's role, and how does the telco actually get a piece of this action?
PK, I'll just take a cue from the lady who was just talking about the security system. So telco is a very critical part of the whole supply chain. And just to give you an example, today, at least we are launching something which is going to be available on our device. It could be any device, a tablet or a phone, where you could look into your house, wherever you are, whichever part of the globe you are, through an application fabric. How it's happening is through the telco connectivity, of course. You could, and then there is a response center which is available. So, for example, an intrusion alarm or something goes off in your house. The level of security, you choose that. So, for example, the first level of security is going to be a normal mail or a normal phone call, on a number that you already fed in. Second level of security could be the response center calls up the emergency services if there is no response. I think adding to the point which Jasmeet said, the intent for device manufacturer like us and a telco to go hand in hand is very essential. For example, we want to give this sort of power in the hand of the consumer. For example, can I have a device like this and in terms of emergency shake it like this and maybe an alarm goes off? Yes, that's true. Can I use the screen and see what's going on in my house and change the sort of angle of the camera? Yes, that's possible. So all this is being possible because at the end of the convergence is a sort of platform which is in your hand, which is another screen. But at the back end, it's all getting connected through a pipe, which is what the telco owns. So it might be a dumb pipe, but that's the backbone, and that's what's connecting everything else in the whole ecosystem. So that's extremely essential. And that's, again, a very big revenue opportunity. Now, if I look at another point, which is about smart cities, going beyond smart homes, a Wi-Fi experience, which is there in the probably mature economies, is extremely essential. So the more Wi-Fis or the more cities we have which are having a public Wi-Fi, more data consumption, more usage of these apps and these systems is going to be possible. And I think that's also going to proliferate amongst the communities on what is the sort of important than again bring in scale and bring down the cost. So it's a sort of an ecosystem which goes hand in hand. So somewhere someone has to do the start, which I think the government has taken the initiative and it's all going to trickle down.
Jasmeet, what about you? I mean, you're clearly, in a set of devices where, the telco comes in a very critical position and stage. And, these devices, such as what Asha was mentioning, don't work if they're not connected. If the connectivity fails, your entire security anyway goes for a toss. But where does the telco fit in your scheme of things? How does are these back-end deals, are they part of a go-to-market led by some services entities which are offering these, and they tie up with specific telcos?
Right. So, in my opinion, a telco is critical in this entire ecosystem, and they have multiple roles to play. One, as Vishal said, a telco needs to act as an aggregator. They need to touch base with developers, educate them. They need to lay the infrastructure that can in turn help them provide service, and they also need to partner with OEMs. So they need to aggregate the builder community, the OEM community, the infrastructure developers, and get them all together to offer the services that we need, that we are talking about. So telco as an aggregator. Second, telco as a service provider, as an infra provider. So you have fiber to the home. Now, that's another driver of the smart home concept. It's already come in Gurgaon, it's already come in Bangalore. You have fiber which reach to a site where a developer is making a building, and developer just needs to add one smart module, and then entire home is smart enabled. So that again is a critical role that a telco needs to play. And third, and one of the most important from an OEM perspective, as PK was mentioning, telco as a market maker, as a go-to market channel, because telco has the connect with each of us, and that kind of connect cannot be replicated by OEM or by a developer. So telco also needs to help make this market. And by making this market is educating the customers and telling them actually what kind of services and products are possible. Now, specifically to answer PK's question in terms of partnership, Honeywell already partners with AT&T in USA. There's a dedicated network that AT&T creates for Honeywell, and all our intrusion and our video products go through that dedicated pipeline that AT&T has created. So there, AT&T and Honeywell are actually partners, and we serve millions of consumers in the USA. Now, I'm sure that concept can also be replicated in a developing market like India. So just to summarize, telco as an aggregator, telco as a market maker, and telco as an infra and service provider.
So, just to add to this question, what is the kind of opportunity, as far as, let's take data. Now, clearly, with some of the M2M applications, it's very, very low burst mode data. Like, for example, let's say a cellular interface in an electricity meter will probably give a reading at the most once a day, and it's a short burst on the SS7 layer or an SMS or whatever. But a video camera, if it is in a remote location where it's actually using cellular, is probably a lot of data.
The biggest data driver is video. Intrusion, home automation, these are just sensors which use a very small bandwidth. Obviously, there are like multiple sensors involved, but still nothing beats the data consumption that a video camera consumes. So very simply, I have cameras in my home, and right now on my smartphone, I can actually see my home and my rooms. So imagine the kind of data that is being pumped. So that is just one home. Now, if we have at least just 2 cameras in every home or most of the homes, imagine the kind of data bandwidth which is being used. And this is just homes that we are talking about. We're not even getting into the commercial space in which we have ATMs, we have retail outlets, warehouses installing multiple cameras, and then there is a central monitoring of the video feed. So that is the kind of scale that can actually come up if we hook on video cameras onto this kind of network. So as I mentioned, the scale and the mass will actually come from video, but even smart home and the sensors do use bandwidth.